What's up, you filthy casuals? Welcome to the Casual Shenanigans podcast, a podcast all about the irreverent love of gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Jeremiah. Tonight, I am joined by the best beard in the business, Dave. All right. And I am also joined by Papa James.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome to the show. Joel is not here this evening, as you have probably guessed, and if you're on the video version of the podcast, because you didn't see anybody zooming into crazy eyes. But if you'd like to catch the show live, you can come to youtube.com/casualshenanigans and watch 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Thursday nights. Tonight, actually, all the chat is hanging out in Dave's channel. So if you want to go over to youtube.com/evilviking13, but you can't because you're listening to this after the fact. So
yeah, don't go there now if you're listening to this on iTunes because no one's going to be there.
But yeah, you can catch us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, stuff, other podcast services. I personally use Dogcatcher. Doesn't really matter. Go do it. The Twitter is @casualshenanigans. Okay, we're going to start the show like we always do with the main topic.
We don't have a song for the main topic still.
I always
it's been
feel
like
we do.
5 years.
We've never had one.
Wasn't like main topic time?
Nope,
No.
never. Not a single time.
We will consult the Casual Shenanigans historian, Shane, the Ultra Grunt. I feel like they're correct, and I'm probably overextending myself here. Have we ever had a main topic song? Remember,
If there was, it was a joke.
Shane's word is law. All right. Tonight, we want to talk about monetizing modern games. That's right. Another podcast about loot boxes. No, but it actually isn't. So, well, maybe a little bit. We'll probably talk about them some. But tonight, what we want to talk about is how would we monetize games differently? Because, yes, we have dumped on loot boxes quite a few times recently. You may have noticed. Were you about to drop something?
No, I'm trying to figure out what solar eclipse was in the corner of my camera. I realized it's the t-shirt I'm using as a filter for my light hanging down.
Oh.
Your Patreon bucks at work.
It's an old undershirt cut into a rectangle.
So how would we monetize games? I have some suggestions that I have gathered together here to kind of get the conversation started of possible monetization strategies. So first, let's start with why would anyone need to monetize a game beyond selling it? Isn't that what selling the game is for? And the answer to that is used to be the case, not exactly anymore. So modern games, besides costing more to develop than they ever have before and taking longer and being harder than they ever have been, they also tend to have more extended support than they used to. It used to be a game comes out, maybe get a patch or two, that's it. Maybe they come out with an expansion, you buy the expansion, that comes with a patch, that's it. But now it's expected that at least for the first couple months, you're going to be getting regular patches, mostly for bugs and features, occasionally for additional content. And then after that period of time, there'll be the Seasons Pass or the extra monetization strategy. And then eventually the game tails off. And if the game doesn't do really well, example, Lawbreakers officially hit 0 players on PC. It's probably bounced back a tiny bit from there, but
sucks.
Yeah, that game
is awful.
That game crashed and burned hard. So unless a game does something like that, then it will probably be around for a little while. If it crashes and burns really hard, they might cancel some of the plans.
I'm just stuck on that, Jeremiah, because I remember the hype leading up to that game. At E3, there was a Lawbreakers booth. Like one of the ones with like the giant walls and signs and all the lighting effects with like 50 or 60 computers all playing Lawbreakers. That was 7 months ago, 8 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
Gone. Sorry. All right. I'm good.
No, all good. All good. So
I was just stuck on that.
So some of the stuff we know that we would want out of a monetization strategy, right? We know that you don't want to mess up progression for people who don't spend money, right? You don't want to mess up the experience for people who don't spend the money. You don't want to unfairly balance the games so the people who don't spend money have a worse game experience than people who do spend money, like from a competitive standpoint. Your overall subjective experience playing the game
2
can change. Yeah, but yeah, you don't want a Battlefront 2 situation. You also don't want people to be completely gated out of essential sections of content in the game because of a paywall, right? you should be buying a complete game. The definition of a complete game can vary person to person. So like that's debatable, but you should buy a complete game, and then our ideal monetization strategy would be something in addition to that. Would you guys agree with that? Would you want to change that? Do you think I'm off on something?
Yeah, I think you're on it. Yeah.
Okay. So I've got a couple examples of possible alternatives. So one is ads. Like possible. I didn't say these were good. This is just some examples to get
good old free mobile game experience.
Right. But you could do it, right? You could have the cheaper version of a game with ads, or you could have the more expensive version that doesn't have it. There's the thing that people do now, the premium version of a game, which is $10 or $20 extra. Well, you can make that have all of the additional content, all the things that you would have normally put into a loot box or into like a bunch of DLC of some kind. You could put it into just a more expensive version of the game, because since games haven't really increased their prices along with inflation, games are not only more expensive to make, and they take longer than they ever have, they're also cheaper than they've been in decades. So there's that. Splitting single player and multiplayer. That's something we've talked about before. What if Call of Duty was just, you buy the new Call of Duty multiplayer every year and the single player is like a $20 add-on? There's that. Free to play multiplayer, like Team Fortress 2, Dota 2, League of Legends. Like just go with the complete free model and make a bunch of extra things to buy, but then people don't feel bad because there's nothing, like you didn't pay anything for it, as long as the core gameplay isn't hurt. Product placement. Again, that goes back to ads. Maybe not a great idea. Subscriptions. Pretty obvious one. And then episodic stuff.
I mean, I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can we sit on cosmetics for a minute?
Sure.
I know you kind of passed that one a second ago, but I thought, what's his channel? Jimquisition, I think.
Yeah.
He had an interesting video on cosmetics, because after the whole Battlefront debacle, I was like, I mean, I wonder if they could have just monetized with just cosmetics. But I think he had a great point where it's like, cosmetics used to be an expected reward in most games, where it's like you beat a level in a certain way or in a certain time or something, and you would unlock a cosmetic change for your character, like play through again as somebody else, stuff like that. So while cosmetics might be a good way to monetize a game in a way that wouldn't affect balance, it is still putting content behind a paywall that traditionally might not have been there.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to say, like, you know, a game being designed today, like, oh, this outfit in Ghost Recon Wildlands, like, this should have been in the base game. Like, well, who's to say? The base game has 100 outfits. Why is the 101st one expected to be part of the base content? But at the same time, you know, where you draw the line between cosmetics that would have been there for free and ones that are just being used to monetize? It was an interesting question, I thought.
Along what I would consider to be like almost a cosmetic addition to a game, I actually think Forza does a good job. So the last few Forza games have done this, where they come with 600 or 700 games, or the Forza Horizon games come with maybe 200. And they sell the base games with tons and tons of tracks and cars. Then they sell a VIP membership, which comes with cars and other in-game stuff. And then they sell a car pass, and they've always sold a car pass. So far for Forza 7, here's what the car DLC has been. If you digitally pre-ordered, you got the Hoonigan bonus content pack, which is a bunch of Hoonigan cars. And then,
is that a brand? I don't even know.
Hoonigan is a car lifestyle brand. So they don't make cars. They modify a lot of cars. They're affiliated with Speed Hunters. They were started by Ken Block, the rally driver.
So they're the Magpul of cars, then?
Not quite.
I thought I had that one.
But you could debatably say that the 511 of cars, because they
oh no
they take the car culture maybe a little too seriously. No,
gotcha.
So a Hoonigan pack of like famous Hoonigan cars, and then there was a Day One car pack, the Fate of the Furious car pack, which they just gave out to everybody. It was a tie-in, like that was an ad promotional tie-in with the movie, but it's a bunch of hero cars from the Fast and Furious franchise, so that's kind of cool. And then they did another promotional one, the Totino's Edition Pagani Huayra. So it's a supercar.
Wait, Totino's?
Yes.
The pizza.
Apparently. And then they had now this next one in November was included in the car pass. It was the Samsung QLED TV car pack. So it has nothing to do with Samsung QLED TVs. It's just sponsored like a NASCAR race. Like that's the only relation. And that came with a couple outfits and it came with 7 cars. And they did the Doritos car pack, which also came with 7 cars. That's included in the car pass. Then they did a free one, a new Porsche 911 that had come out. They released to everybody, and then they did another Totino's car pack, and then a Hyundai Veloster car pack, which was free. So they do some that are like built into the car pass that you pay extra for, and then some they just are free and they give out to everyone. But these are like, you don't need the extra cars. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars. If you're interested, you can pay more. But a lot of people do. They just buy the ones they're interested in. Like they'll come out with a Porsche Legacy pack that has a bunch of interesting Porsches from the last 40 years. Or they come out with another tie-in to some movie or something and people buy those. Like, I think it's kind of cool because it does feel very optional. It's like, hey, if you're interested in this thing, here's a car pack for it. But you in no way need them to play the game. They don't come with any tracks. Like, it's just cars, extra cars for the game. So I actually think that's pretty good.
That's not bad. Now, I was confused. So the Doritos car pack, for instance, does the brand pay for that content, or do you pay for the content, which is then also branded by Doritos?
You pay for the content. So, and then, but they branded the name of it. So it's the Doritos car pack has released, and the icon for the pack has some Doritos branding. Like that's how they would do it. Like sponsoring.
But like the cars aren't covered in labels and stuff like that.
No, because you can repaint the cars whatever you want. It's just extra cars. So this one came with like a 1939 BMW 328, a 1926 Bugatti, a Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk, a Nissan Safari, a 1960s Porsche. Like it's a very eclectic blend of different cars. And normally I think they come with some special paint schemes and stuff too. But like it's cool, but it feels very optional, and I've never bought any of them. And you don't have to buy the car pass; you can buy them a la carte, just like Battlefield DLC.
Well, here's a similar example. I think this would apply to like in a similar vein here for Wildlands. The base game has tons of military outfits, right? Like there's like a stupid amount of patches in the game, good amounts of shirts and pants and stuff. And I think going back to Jim Quisition's argument about like cosmetics being a expected part of the game, I think the base version of Wildlands actually does a pretty good job of offering a good selection of stuff. What do you think?
Albeit a little more expensive than necessary.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. For their content packs, most of them are themed, and it's just more unique content for the cosmetics on top of a good selection that's already there. And I think that's the key. If it's like Wildlands had 10 hats, and then there were 80 hats you could pick from to buy, that might be a problem. But if Wildlands has 50 hats, and then there's 50 crazy hats you can buy, like, well, that's not as bad. You know, there's a good split between what you get with your copy of the game, and then, like, I wanted the Ranger hat. Maybe there's a specific hat that normally, like, people wouldn't be interested in, that like the artist wouldn't need to spend a whole bunch of time on normally. Mm-hmm. They could add it just as a monetized option for people to buy. This wouldn't make sense to add to the base game. Like the Ranger hat, I don't think many people would use that in the default game.
I think it'd be smart for them to do what Rocket League has done with all their themed additions to the game. Which actually, I think Rocket League does a great job. Like, hey, you want the Batmobile? Hey, you want like the DeLorean from Back to the Future? I think it'd be smart if Wildlands did like themed packs for famous action movies. So like you can get the Predator outfit pack that you and your whole squad can wear. Not like the actual Predator itself, but what the guys were wearing in Predator. Get the Die Hard pack, which is like a real bloody like wife beater and bare feet. Like get a bunch of themed outfits.
I'm waiting for you to say the A-Team.
The A-Team.
As much as you sung that.
As much as we sung the A-Team last night. The A-Team would probably be good though, would it? Like, wouldn't that be cool?
See, I would enjoy that stuff in the campaign. I don't think I would enjoy it in PvP. And even the campaign, that's a little just because I don't want it to get too campy. Like I still have those fears from when they did that demonstration at E3 of it just being like this corny game that's not tactical at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which it's just really not the case. But I'm thinking, there's a fine line between what Rocket League can get away with, crazy colors and, different flags and stuff and silly hats versus turning it into a Fortnite where it's just all cartoonish.
That's true.
Or GTA 5's DLC, theirs was all free, of course, because they wanted you to purchase in-game money to unlock stuff. So it was technically free. Technically, actually. But like a lot of GTA style stuff, like I think wouldn't fit well with Wildlands.
I think the fine line also is giving player advantage. Like any game that allows cosmetics, it's one thing to get like a unique T-shirt that you can show off or whatever, but if you can buy an exclusive ghillie suit that just gives you more cover or something, I think that's where I would draw the line. Because again, it's anytime I talk about cosmetics, it has to be for the enjoyment of everybody. It can't be to give advantage.
Yeah, 100%. And that's super key for all multiplayer. Trying to think about like let's say Battlegrounds, for example. If there was an option where you can just straight up purchase for like $15 the amazing camouflage pack where you like have a permanent ghillie suit or something, that would be way too far. So that's not cosmetics. That's a huge difference in gameplay.
On the same token of Battlegrounds, I don't want to get too much into loot crates. It's the randomization that would frustrate me. Like I want to be able to see what I'm getting because I want to make that decision. Like when you bought your Wildlands character,
yeah,
it was oh man, I have to buy this. This is so me. I would be more than happy to spend money on cosmetics that were that. But if in Wildlands, PUBG fashion, it was just pay $5 extra to get an exclusive crate.
With a chance to get what you want in it. That was what was great too, is like for Wildlands, for the Ranger kit, I could open it up and say, oh, it has this Park Ranger hat. That's awesome. Like that would fit my character great. But I can also see like exactly, okay, it has this M14. I would definitely use that. Probably wouldn't use this shotgun much, but it looks cool. And it had, I think, that little captain's hat. And I was like, I wouldn't use that as much, but I like that still. You can see exactly what you're getting. So that's another thing too, is whatever way that developers are monetizing their games, the randomness is truly awful. Like just this side, I think most of the time of being like taking advantage of people a lot of times.
So two of the things on the list that I went to park on personally was I would really like to see multiplayer and singles players split possibly. Allowing to buy like a full version, but it gives the studios more, I guess, incentive to keep the multiplayer going over years, and you can put those outside purchases into it.
Doesn't that just create a problem where now people will buy a game if they just want one or the other, and fewer people will buy it? Like, wouldn't that be the concern? Is you don't know if people are going to buy more of the game?
But there are people that aren't going to buy it because they're not going to spend $60 just because they want to play the multiplayer. Or they don't want to spend $60 to play a single player. So at some point, that value is going to drop to the level they're willing to pay to play that one portion of the game.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is we don't know. Would there be more people who would pay extra? Like, are there more people who would pay for a cheaper version of the game than they would lose by having cheaper versions of the game? If that makes sense. Like, you'd have to sell quite a bit more to even break even.
Personally, I would be more inclined to buy early versus buying when
I'd agree with
drops
that.
to $20.
And that could help your player base get strong early. Like instead of a bunch of people waiting 4 or 5 months till something drops in price to play it, even if the multiplayer looks fun, if it was cheaper, maybe you'd hop on it day one and your multiplayer would stay strong longer and it's better for the game.
And then that introduces them to maybe the single player too.
Yeah.
If,
Yeah.
But companies like Battlefield could stop making their campaign, possibly.
I really feel like they're wanting to check that box. That's like a design decision that's maybe like a higher level than just for money reasons.
An idea of something Battlefield could have done different, or Battlefront could have done differently. What if you take like, what if you take things that you can buy that do make you a better player, but you progression gate them to where you can only buy them if you're at a tier where you'd be unlocking stuff like that anyway. So let's say you hit level 10 and, well, let's view it like an RPG. You know, you've got levels on your weapons that you can't use till you hit a certain level, right? What if it was like that in Battlefront where you couldn't use certain weapons till you progressed to their level, and then there were extra ones you could buy if you wanted to? Or you could roll for extra chances to get one that you liked and unlock it sooner. So like you can unlock it sooner, but you couldn't use it before you actually progressed to the level where you'd be allowed to use it anyway, right? Like you can't get lucky and unlock it at the very beginning of the game and get an advantage over people. But if you work your way up to the level where you could get it, then you can pay extra for a better chance of getting it sooner. I still think it's a little bit scummy. Like I don't like the whole gambling aspect of it.
Hey, we froze up a little bit on my end. I don't know if, did you guys see any issues?
No, it looks like it's fine to me. But
what you said was profound. I didn't hear it, but
oh, you didn't hear it at all?
well said.
Dave, did you have any thoughts?
No, I just got lost in that back and forth. Sorry. I got a little bit of buzz there too for a second.
Okay. So in Battlefront 2, what if you treat it like an RPG where there are weapons you have that you can't use until you level up to a certain level, right?
Right.
Okay. So what if you had progression levels in the different things you can unlock? So let's say I hit level 30. There are additional weapons I can now play with. I can pay to get extra chances to unlock those things sooner, like to unlock them sooner at that level. Like maybe I hit level 30 and then it still takes me a couple hours to get the things I need to unlock it. What if I could pay extra to unlock it as soon as I hit level 30, but I still can't play with it before then? So I still have to have actually played and put time into the game to get to that point.
I don't get it.
I get what he's saying here. I think I'm gonna channel Joel here for a second, and I think he would really hate that system because, like, what happens if you pick up a game like he's kind of stopped playing Battlefield now? What if he had paid $5 to unlock all these cool guns, but he just stopped playing before he actually got to use them? Like, I can see that. That's a balanced system, I think, for the player community. But I can see a lot of complaints from people who would maybe pay into that system, who wouldn't get to that point of actually using the stuff that they unlocked for whatever reason. Just a thought.
Yeah,
I can see some complaining.
My only real thought was, is that a way they could have made it a bit better? Like, would that be more fair than what they chose to do?
Yeah. Because it's more fair for the community versus trying to please the people that are paying the money, as it is now.
I actually want to give a shout out to something that I guess people don't really like. I think the EA Origin Pass is actually a good monetization strategy. I happily pay $5 a month. Yeah, you and me do. But, you know, we're also
Do people not like that? I thought people liked that.
People hate EA for everything.
Well, besides that, that's one of the things they liked, I thought.
Well, generally people are okay with it when they're not busy hating on EA. I think me and James, you know, we're on the podcast, we're all old enough that we're a bit more pragmatic about a lot of things. I mean, I'd like to think that at least, but I like it because, you know, a lot of the time those are games I wouldn't buy on their own for $1 or $2 a piece. But for the price of one AAA game a year, I have a whole bunch of games that I probably wouldn't have bought that I do get to try. So I'm trying additional games I probably wouldn't have bought. They're getting money out of me they probably wouldn't have gotten. And they add new stuff to it, and they let me try additional games, which has resulted in at least 2 sales to EA so far. Like, it's actually working. I'm paying them, and you know, so they're getting at least 1 AAA game out of me each year, and out of that has come me buying at least 2 more. And that may not have happened on its own. So I think that's actually a good strategy. I don't really like that, so like everybody has to do it on their own service, but what if Ubisoft had like their own game service? Ubisoft cranks out some games. Like, they have a pretty impressive
you play the
catalog.
Assassin's Creed collection one.
Yeah. What if it was like, what if on Steam you had subscription channels like you do on Amazon? Like, pay extra $10 on your Amazon Prime membership, you get stars, extra $15 you get HBO, you know? What if you had on Steam, like, extra $5 a month you get all the EA games, extra $5 a month you get all the Ubisoft games, or all the games they would put into their catalog, so everything that's like a year and a half old or older, plus trials of their new stuff. Like, you could probably make a significant chunk of money, as everything is moving to a subscription model, right?
Right.
Like, that's, people have figured out that's the way you get a lot of money now is you come up with something good enough that people are willing to pay you and not worry about it on the months when they're not using it. So it has to be cheap enough that you don't worry about the price if you don't use it for a little while. And it has to be of good enough value that it's like a no-brainer, I'm going to do it, which is pretty much the whole idea behind Movie Pass.
That's tail-end content, though.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't successfully do that on a new game that comes out. I mean, it's like that would be like taking away movie theaters for movies. I mean, that's where they get all their money. Then they go to Netflix and you maybe watch it. Maybe you didn't go in the theater, but they still have that significant chunk up front that they need to make to make it profitable.
No,
and with games being just insanely expensive to make. Yeah. But I do like the idea of the older games.
Right. If you started it maybe at like 8 months old, like 8-month-old games or something. And it's like EA they don't do every single game or anything, but it's enough games that it seems like a no-brainer, and you can put a longer tail on games that wouldn't have had one.
Yeah.
Which can also help when you're trying to keep a dev team floating for longer, you know?
At what point are they going to start raising the prices of games?
I honestly would be fine if they just went ahead and did it.
Because they're so far behind on
that's
inflation.
The problem. That's the problem is you can't just raise it to $80. People would lose their minds, you know?
Right. But that 50, 60 mark, I mean, 60 came, 10 years ago?
No, it was longer than that.
Are you sure?
60 was like early 2000s, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Because I remember like Command and Conquer games being like $50 and thinking like, whoa. But then it went to 60. I want to say early 2000s.
Yeah, I feel like it was like 2003, 2004. It was shortly after I got our GameCube, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So that's like close to 10 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe 15 at the most.
Maybe 15, yeah.
But I mean, the games were still $50 in the 90s and the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And, today those games would be worth like $100 or 80, $90, which is insane when they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars now to make some of these AAA games.
Well, not just to make and to advertise.
Right.
For a lot of games now, I mean, the advertisement's twice as much as the game's development budget.
Here's the thought I had too on this is that, top quality games right now are the most expensive they've ever been, but we're in a weird place right now where the barrier to entry is also the lowest it's ever been. Like Unreal Engine's free, CryEngine's free. Anybody can plop down and start working on a game. So you have a scenario where truly good games, large games, cost a ton of money to make, more than they ever have. But I feel like customer trust of the industry is at an all-time low, again, because the barrier of entry is so low and there's so much just fluff out there. There's so much to sift through that it can be hard to tell, like, oh, sure, the new price for games is $75 now. Like, well, why is this early access survival zombie game now $75 on Steam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a weird dichotomy where, again, like, the cost of making a good game is extremely high, but that barrier of entry being so low is sometimes a bad thing because there's just not a lot of trust there.
Well, the thing is, we set expectations. We want graphics to be more realistic. We want cutscenes to be more cinematic. We want, but we're not willing to make any personal sacrifice for it to get there.
That's a popular thing in the car community. There's a lot of parallels to that. So James, you're probably familiar with some of this. People get super excited, like the young, mostly male car community gets really excited when new cool sports cars get announced. But everybody's excited to buy them used 10 years from now. And the cars that people get super excited about typically don't sell very well because the people who can buy them new don't want those. They want crossovers. That's all anybody wants is crossovers. And those cars don't sell well. And then people moan and whine about, like, well, why isn't Toyota making, like in the 90s, Toyota made the Supra and the Turbo Celica and the MR2, and like Toyota was killing it.
That was a good time.
Yeah, with all these sports cars. Now they're like, well, we make the Avalon, it has 300 horsepower. Like, they just don't make sports cars anymore. Same thing as like Nissan in the 90s versus Nissan of today. Like, Mitsubishi had the 3000 GT VR4 and the Eclipse. Now their Eclipse is literally a crossover. I wish I was joking. But but you know, people moan about like, oh, why aren't these companies making these cars anymore? Like, why aren't they, whatever happened to the cheap rear wheel drive stick shift sports car? And the answer is nobody pays for them. Like everybody wants to get them when they're used and cheap. And that's the problem with games is we want. And then we moan about, well, why aren't people making games like we used to make when I was younger? And for a long time, the answer was, well, because you stopped buying them. But now with like the rise of stuff like Kickstarter, people will go back and they'll say, hey, we're literally going to make like an old RPG, just like all these old ones you played 15 years ago. And people go, $20, here you go. Like, I'm on board. So you can sell stuff purely based on here's something you used to buy for the price you used to pay for it. And we'll give it to you. And I think that it really it goes back to that. Even like I didn't buy Wildlands at full price. I waited. I ended up enjoying it. There's plenty of games, even if I really wanted, I don't buy it at full price. I wait because I want a decent deal. But so, I guess I'm part of the problem. We're all part of the problem. I don't think you should buy a game at a price higher than you think it's going to be worth. I think you should get a dollar-wise deal. Check out youtube.com, dollar-wise gamers. But you also have to keep in mind, if you're not paying for things, people will stop building things. They'll stop making them.
It's true.
But we're paying for those season passes. We're paying for all the cosmetics. We're paying for that.
We are so much.
I'm not.
People are. People are.
Yeah.
I feel like people are paying with one hand and complaining with the other, like, this is the stupidest thing. I'll take one season pass, please.
Well, I mean, no, and we've done that. I mean, think how much Joel hated Battlefront 2's loot boxes. He still bought Battlefront because he wants to play Star Wars, right?
Several times, as usual.
Forza 7 was buggy. And a lot of people were mad about the loot boxes. I still bought it because I want to play Forza. And I was okay with the trade-off. Like, it's not like I'm sticking to my guns and going, no, you know what? Project Cars 2 is the pure car sim for the people who really care about it. And they just give it all to you up front. And I'm going to only play that. Like, no, the other one's better. I'm going to get that one. Like, do I really care what their monetization strategy is? I'll buy whatever I want to buy,
I think the biggest change that will help at least the developers and the console makers is when we go to all digital for consoles. It's not as much for PC, obviously, because there's not like a resale factor, but you buy it used, you buy it on sale, you buy it here. The developers aren't getting that money, so they have to either make it up front or find ways to make it after it's been sold. And I think, maybe, I don't know if it'll be the next console generation or the one after that, but when they go all digital, they won't be losing all that money that, you sell 10 copies, 30 people play it, versus 30 people play it. You might be getting a little bit less per each, but you've sold 30 copies because you can't replicate it for somebody else. Which is why Steam is so much cheaper generally on their sales than, consoles, because they don't have that loss.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't solve the PC market, but I feel like most of the money problems for these developers comes in the console markets.
Why do you think that?
Because of that loss. They have to find out ways to make the money up.
PC games do tend to have longer tails too, like less sales up front, but then the sales I do have stretch over a longer period of time.
Right,
like
you might buy a game
sometimes.
10 years later versus versus when it's not been out for 2 or 3 years. You might pick it up for like $5 at GameStop or something.
Right. All right, so let's wrap the topic down with this. So obviously, the best case scenario. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
I was gonna say, hold on to your wrap up thought because I feel like you had a good one there.
Okay.
But I wanted to throw one more wrench into things before we moved on for the main topic. So I do feel like we kind of, all we've done is go in a circle and say, wow, this is a really complicated issue, and there's no good solution that would fit all games, right? You guys agree on that? I was thinking too, like, at what point are developers also hurting themselves by being either too ambitious or just outright too greedy? And I think the first example that comes to mind is, did Battlegrounds really need to add loot boxes? Like, were they so desperate with those 30 million players last year where they're like, guys, we can't keep the lights on. We need loot crates, like, right now.
I mean, I think they were putting that in because Battlegrounds is pretty much like a lab-grown everything that works in online competitive games mashed into one. Like that's why Battlegrounds works. I'm sure that's why they put them in. They're like, we can make money doing this. Why would we not make money if we could make money? You know.
As far as ambition, I think on a AAA developer that doesn't apply because you can't make something less than what's expected of you.
Yeah.
If you can't make graphics that look 3 years old on a new game and expect not to catch complete hell from
that's what's happened to
people.
Homefront. That's the problem with Homefront. Both Homefront games is they've been as good as Call of Duty was 4 years before then, right? Like, but they're charging the same money as Call of Duty. Like that's always hurt them. Is it's a perfectly fine game, and if it came out 10 years ago, people would think it was amazing, but they don't.
But there's no way to keep development costs down at this point because you can't stop progressing.
Mm-hmm.
Like ideally, the games are just as fun whether it's the graphic fidelity is there or not. But it's the expectations.
Well, I think part of that is because realism, because the never-ending chase for realism in graphics. I think there's plenty of games that have shown that you can have a super successful game that doesn't go for realism. Like it doesn't have to reach that high because it's going in a different direction and they put a ton of work into it. But you can't really compare it to another game and go, oh, well, it doesn't look quite as realistic as this other one because they're not even trying. It's like they get to be judged by a different standard, like Rocket League, right? It's a great looking game. You can't judge it compared to Forza because they're not, the art isn't the same. You know, there's nothing really to compare there. But what I was going to say was, so we have tossed out a bunch of different ideas, and maybe the best version is doing something like The Witcher 3, where you just make an incredible game with tons of content. You don't charge extra for anything other than, oh yeah, this is like a whole nother game we're like charging $20 for. And then people just buy the game for years and years and years because they think it's awesome, right? Like maybe that's the best case scenario. But out of the options we've talked about, let's say you had to come up with a remonetization strategy for, can we each think of a game that we really like that has no remonetization strategy and think about which one of these options we would choose for that game if they had to make more money? Is that fair?
I had to pick one?
Yeah. To pick a game you love that does not have microtransactions, what would you add to it if you had to pick one?
That's a very relevant question because the general consensus in the Battlefield community is that this is going to be the last Battlefield game, at least for a long while, that has premium season pass, essentially. Because
it didn't sell well?
It didn't sell as well, and the community, I think, has been more split now than anything.
Do you think Battlefront hurt Battlefield this time around, too?
Thankfully, Battlefield came out a year before Battlefront 2.
Right, but Battlefront 2 ended up... Battlefront 1 was so sparse on content. So when Battlefront 2 came out, they released all their DLC for free. So moving forward,
maybe.
I hate saying Battlefield and Battlefront and Battlegrounds anywhere near each other because I'm always gonna mix them up.
I really think that for Battlefield, make sure I get it right there. I think really the community was really tired of premium. There was a huge amount of outrage in 3 over the season pass. But it was kind of quelled by the fact that it was the first new Battlefield game on PC in like 8 years, and the DLC was good. Like everyone loved the game, it was really good. Then Battlefield 4 came along, and it's like, hey guys, season pass is back, get your premium. It's like, well, the base game is not great, it's broken. Now we're paying for extra content, so that kind of soured the community. I think going into Battlefield 1, people were already in like, really guys mode. Like we're getting real tired of this. Yeah, so going forward for Battlefield, what would I pick? I'll say instead of the season pass, seeing the season pass is probably it's going away.
They are definitely going to replace it with something else that's going to make as much money as possible.
And that's the thing, it's going to make some serious money because the season pass was $50.
Well, that's the one thing. That's really expensive for a season pass.
For multiplayer-only content.
$20 season passes, I think, are about as much as I really want to play.
Especially
or
when
pay.
all you're really getting out of the new DLC is like a couple weapons and more maps. And once you have 25 maps, you don't need any more maps. Like if the maps are good, the maps are good.
Yeah, $50 is steep. I think the DLCs actually do offer like a good value. If like you're a serious Battlefield player, like 4 to 5 maps, 6 weapons, like a new mode, a bunch of new vehicles every pack, which is, I think it divides out to, if you have the pass, it's like $10 a piece. Like that's a good value. But for them to match that value in something else, I don't know if cosmetics would do it. I really hope it's not loot crates like Battlefront. That is my nightmare. Is Battlefield?
Well, they screwed that over too.
I mean, they already have loot crates in the game. They're just not. I mean, they have loot crates in the game.
Yeah,
already.
So they have loot crates and they have cosmetics, and thankfully they're tied to their own like separate system together that doesn't really affect anything besides the look of guns. Man, if I had to pick one, because again, you know what? No, I'm gonna say the Rainbow Six model, where you do, instead of like these smaller expansion packs that are paid for by a season pass, let's say Battlefield World War II comes out and it gets a free content drop after 6 months of like 4 new maps and some weapons and stuff. Everybody who owns the base game gets it. And then like in the next year, there's like a huge update, like 8 maps, whole new theme for stuff. Maybe just a larger content drop where it doesn't feel like it's just so spread out. Mm-hmm. That would also let him use a smaller price point too. So let's say, Battlefield World War II pack number 2 or whatever costs $20, but it doesn't come out for a year. There's free updates in between that to keep, the game alive. And then you've got like one drop where it's almost like a half game release almost. So you can still use the same artists and developers that have been working on the previous game. So development costs can be kept lower. Yeah, I think that's what I would pick for. I don't think I would choose cosmetics for Battlefield. Even though I love customization, I feel like that would get out of hand. We've already seen the crazy amount of skins and all for the guns in Battlefield 1. I think that's a dark road to getting you down. Yeah, that's what I would pick, I think.
All right, James, do you have an example?
I don't have any examples of games that aren't monetized. I mean, you could look at games like, I guess, Mario or something like that. I mean, things like that are just going to be, you could pay to unlock characters, not necessarily characters that you would get in the game, but just, crossover characters from other games or something. But for the most part, if I'm going to pay extra money for a game, I want extra content. I don't want extra skins. I don't want necessarily progression speed. I want, as in Witcher, I want to get my money's worth of what I'm paying for. Mm-hmm. But something that I've talked about before, if Ghost War ends up getting a bigger player base, I would be happy to buy a yearly version to keep playing every year, which is a wish. I wish something like Call of Duty would start doing that with their multiplayer, instead of doing every year having to release a new game, or every couple of years releasing a new game that has a campaign, and then people are jumping into the multiplayer. Just have one multiplayer that just sticks around for a long time, for years, and just keeps generating revenue that way.
Yeah,
I have a monetization strategy for The Witcher 3.
Tread lightly, sir.
No. All right, so hear me out. Dave. James, how much of The Witcher 3 have you played?
I've not played the DLC yet.
Okay. Shoot. I will stay spoiler-free. Dave, remember in one of the DLCs where you meet up with a character and you go to an event near a lake?
Yeah, I do.
All right, so take something of about that size, okay? So we're looking at 2 to 3 hours about of content in a fairly localized area, a whole additional storyline, and a character from the books, right?
Sure.
What if that was $5, and came with a new armor set and a new weapon set, all matching. So like new things you could go craft. And every 2 months, there was a new storyline that came out. Like, think of it like a comic book episodic adventure, but you use the same map because it's huge. It's massive. There's unlimited potential in that map. So you use that map and you come out with 2 to 3 hour quest chains, like where it's all linked together every couple months. $5. New armor, new weapons.
Okay, so I think a lot of people would be interested in that. But I know me as a huge like Witcher fan, I would immediately go, okay, where's the option to just buy it all? And I just want it all.
Maybe so, which I'm sure, knowing them, they would release like a, hey, we've added
It's
it all.
called a season pass.
Yeah, we've added it all into
this is a season pass.
Good job, Dave.
But, you know,
validated.
But they would have probably added to the Game of the Year edition for no additional cost at some point, right? They would. But it's like it's something to get the fans back into the game every couple of months if they finished everything, because, you know, we would all sign back in to do it. And you could have fun doing that. And you could be meeting new characters from the extended universe. Like, they could be just spreading it out and bringing in more book characters and stuff. And you could keep the game really alive for a couple years. And I would happily pay them, because at that point you're looking at an extra 30 hours of content for another $60. So I would do that. Now, Ben in chat says he'd hate that type of monetization system because he would feel like it would take away from the feeling of actually finishing the game, which I can definitely see. So this is, we're talking about more of a game as a service. You buy the base game, comes with this huge campaign, comes with a game world, and then as a service, they release new things into the game world so you can stay in it and live in it for a longer period of time. So you have to shift your thinking from it being purely a story-based single-player game that ends and think more of a Telltale model where you're basically signing up to be along for the story they want to tell for the next couple of years. And why couldn't you? Why couldn't you do it all episodic? TV shows do that.
My fear with that is that the story would suffer ultimately, and that, you know, when you write that story, you have your end goal in mind. If you attach money to it, how can we drag this out to make more money? Kind of like TV shows do.
There's that potential.
You know, but you look at something like Breaking Bad, where there really wasn't that many throwaway episodes, versus Walking Dead, which had some really good moments and seasons, and then they're like, how do we stretch this out for years? And they started flashbacks on characters and doing just characters, you know, centric episodes. And like, what new place can we take them to now? It was never, you know, something about The Witcher is you have a start and an end to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can tell new stories, but if you just keep adding and adding and adding, at some point you're taken away from the cleverness of writing on a game like that.
Ben said in chat, imagine watching Interstellar up to the water planet, but $5 to more, you can watch the rest. No, I'm not saying that, Ben. I'm saying more of a TV show where you pay $2 or $3 for an episode and then they come out with another episode and you watch that. I don't think they should touch the existing complete story that was there. I'm saying this is additional stuff you could do for the next several years to keep selling the game and to keep selling additional content to the millions of people who already own the game. But I would never support that if if stuff actually got chopped out of the game and then added back in later.
Which is going to end up happening in most studios, not necessarily CD Projekt Red, but there are going to be studios, which we've already seen with season passes. They're going to cripple certain components of their game so they can sell it to you later.
It does, but that's why I said this is my monetization strategy for The Witcher 3 only. not for games like that. That's how I'd monetize that game.
Gotcha.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about before we wrap the topic down?
There is one game that I wanted to bring up that we could all talk about. So when DayZ comes back, they've made the bulk of their money. I don't think they're going to see a large influx of sales at this point.
No.
But to justify their years and years of development and the money they've spent, how would you guys find ways to make it so they're still actually making money on the game? Or would you? I mean, on their end, they want to keep making money.
I mean, the ship's already sailed with cosmetics, I feel like. That's all they put into the game for a year and a half is what it felt like. New maps?
That's so much work, though. That's not like a
they could be
quick
smaller
monetization.
maps,
Like, I mean, maybe. For DayZ, I think their best option is to like without angering their old player base, because like if you can't launch DayZ and like, oh, it's finished now, and yeah, it's also half off, and all the people who paid for it for years at full price are gonna be like, are you kidding me? I think DayZ's only monetization option is just to release it and have it be good and have people pay full price for it. Whoever's going to, like, they have no other option.
Would you guys ever consider something like mod subscriptions or mod certification?
Depends on the game.
So the modders are the ones that are paying to get access to be able to do stuff with the code.
That's like a whole different can of worms, I think. I know that Bethesda has the Creation Club, which I think was an interesting idea, but was horribly implemented.
You can't do Creation Club when Nexus exists.
Well, I think you can, but you have to offer something of value, and that's Bethesda's problem. Is first of all, their initial version released updates to mods that already existed. Like, oh, this mod that already exists, now pay for the update for it. That's a terrible marketing strategy. And their second version was, sorry guys, all the new stuff is original content. And it's like, oh look, it's reskins for power armor, or I can download 100 of them for free from the Nexus. Like, there's no value comparing it. It's just
right. But when you make a game like Fallout, when you make those type of games, you have to lock out modding from the get-go, if that's a eventual strategy. So maybe not in Fallout 4, but Fallout 5.
Yeah.
Or something like DayZ, you just don't allow free modders. You set up your store, or you set up the roadmap for that. Because there's plenty of games out there that don't allow modding.
Yeah. It's again, I think that's a whole different can of worms that I think is almost more complicated than monetizing just games, is monetizing mod content.
Well, good talk, guys. And I think there's an excellent suggestion in chat for a future topic, and that was we should talk about what we want out of the next Battlefield game.
Smaller player count.
Actually, for the first time in a long time, as much as I would make fun of the console versions when they were dumbed down, I kind of agree with you now, James.
I mean, it's just like fighting a swarm.
Yeah.
The next Battlefield 2 or whatever they call it. Bees! There's now 400 characters per team and they're all bees!
I mean, is that going to happen in the next game? Are they going to see are they just going to keep pushing, see how many players they can get on a server?
Well, shoot, Battlegrounds can do 100 and that feels good, so why can't Battlefield?
Yeah, I definitely like those 64-player modes most of the time, but I did roll my eyes when DICE is like, guys, we've improved operations mode to get you into more full servers. What we did is we turned off all the 40-player servers. Now your only option is 64. Like, good job. Yeah, they're all going to be populated now, and it's all going to be on the same map together.
I wonder if they could have done a crazy strategy like a server browser. Will you think a server browser could have possibly worked?
Why do you sound like Bill Cosby?
Oh, I wasn't trying to sound like Bill Cosby.
Sound like a drunk Bill Cosby.
Trying to make drunk suggestion, man. What if crazy? What if we try this? What if the players choose what they want to play?
And that's the second eye-rolling part about their operations decision was, like 2 months after they removed the 40-player servers, they finally just added operations to the server browser. So now you can just see which games are populated. Have they rolled back and re-added the 40-player servers? No. I think the topic is now very off topic at this point.
All right. It's now time for What Are You Playing This Week? A part of the show where we talk about what we are playing this week. Do you guys mind if I go first? Because I'm the only one who actually wrote something down.
Got him.
I'm playing Divinity 2 Original Sin with Justin from the Dollarwise Gamers and Mark. And I believe I said this last week, but I am loving the game. I think Mark put in our group chat last week. He was like, I feel like I need to take a week off just so we can play this. It's cool. Like, I feel like it's probably boring to watch if you're not like invested in playing it, but I like it because it's a chill game. You're not like stressed out and moving around all the time. You know, like I can check my phone and grit up and grab a snack in between turns, and like it's more relaxed. But it also has fights that are really hard where you get in the middle of a crap storm and you're like, I have no idea how I'm going to get out of this. So I'm really enjoying it. I think it's great.
That's awesome.
I have been Bitcoin mining. My GPUs have been playing a lot of that lately. They've been playing the nice game, Nice Hash, because I looked up how much my GPUs could earn each day, and I was like, huh. So we're doing that now. I've undervolted them both, and I took the sides off my cases, so they're not running hot. Like, they're running cooler than they do when I game. And then I've just let them mine when I'm not using them. And then
now, how many times per day do you vacuum the dog hair out of your case now?
The dog doesn't come into the room where the computers are.
Because that's the mining room.
Correct. And I haven't had to run the space heater at all unless I'm not running the mining stuff. But I've also started another game, and I think I might have mentioned it to at least one of you guys, so if you remember, don't say. I want to do this like I did with Metal Gear Solid 5. Joel, I've started playing a game. Each week, I want to give you one guess at what game it is. All I'll say is it's at least 3 years old, and it is something you are probably interested in. And I have gotten around to playing it, and so far, I enjoy it. Let me know what your guess is, and I'll give you more hints next week.
Nice and vague.
Well, we did that with Metal Gear Solid, and he had fun. I like giving Joel little challenges.
So, Dave, when are you going to play your secret game of Red Dead?
Is that a daily price at GameStop, the $10?
Yes.
I mean, no,
it's exclusive time offer. Get there and get it quickly.
I mean, there's GameStops.
Bye.
There's very accessible GameStops. You can just do it.
I don't like.
You can even set it aside for in-store pickup. Like you just go in and pay, so you don't even have to look around the store.
Is there eye contact still though?
Not much.
Yeah,
wear sunglasses, like reflective sunglasses, and then just look down the whole time.
And you think I'm robbing the place?
I'll never know.
Am I going next then?
Sure.
I built my computer over the weekend, and I was worried that would put a dent in my game playing, but I have to give Microsoft a shout out. I changed motherboards, RAM, and CPU, and expected to have to reinstall Windows, but I did like a power on test to make sure like all the fans were working, and then my I had everything plugged in the back, and my screen turned on, and it's like repairing your Windows boot. It's like, please wait. And then there's my login screen, and I logged in, and even on my hard drives, I have 6 hard drives with all different drive letters. It reordered them correctly, even though like all the cables had been moved around, so that all of my programs and games just worked. Like all the stuff I have installed across 6 different hard drives, Windows just like did a little spinning wheel for a few minutes and just arranged everything, and it just worked. Only downside was, because I wasn't expecting it to actually work, I had left all of my old motherboard's drivers and utilities installed, and I had to like use Revo uninstaller to like rip them out of Windows because they did not want to let go. But anyway, the computer's working fine, so I've actually been playing games. This is pretty awesome. Dishonored: Death of the Outsider, the standalone expansion pack to Dishonored 2. I'm 5 hours into that now, and I was worried that diving right into it, just having beaten Dishonored 2, like it'd be a little stale maybe. They did a much better job at making the gameplay feel fresh compared to Dishonored 1's DLCs, basically. I don't want to say anything else to spoil it, but you play as a character from Dishonored 2, but all of your abilities are completely different, and there's like side quests you can do now, like actually like contracts, and it feels surprisingly fresh. So seeing I'm already enjoying Dishonored 2 so much, it was like the perfect amount of like new infusion of new elements to make it remain fresh. Beyond that, I missed out on Arma this week from a road trip, playing a little bit of Fallout, but I've also been playing Railway Empire. I've got a preview copy of that. I've been practicing, and there's going to be some preview content next week because it is amazing. It's a good year for Railway Sims. It's funny that like I feel like there's been no attempts at like a Sid Meier's Railroad game in like 10 years. And in the last year, a bunch of them have popped up. This one is awesome.
So it's like Sid Meier's?
Yeah, very much so, including even like the kind of like caricatures of the different characters. Like when you pick your like railroad president, you have all the different characters with different voices, and one of them is just called the general, and he's like a I guess it would be like an army lieutenant. There's like the banker with the top hat and like the twirled mustache, and it's pretty awesome. That's all I'm gonna say. But I'll have some content coming out next week for that. I've been practicing. Really Empire, get ready.
We did have some good matches last night.
Oh yeah, we played Wildlands literally last night. Yeah, Edgar is a beast. Surprise, surprise, Mr. Battlegrounds.
Oh, he played Wildlands with you guys?
Yeah,
for like 2 hours.
we had a lot of really good matches.
Shout out to Ben for his donation in Super Chat of $2. Ben says,
No.
What
Movie spoiler alerts.
Yeah, movie spoiler alerts. Yeah.
Which is his podcast of movie reviews.
Ben sends along his generous donation of $2 along with this message. What does this do?
Why, this tells you to go over to Movie Spoiler Alerts to check out awesome podcasts about movies that have come out, and also Cliff Notes versions of movies that you may not have seen, so you can catch up before you go see the next one in the series, or if you're just curious what happened, go over to Movie Spoiler Alerts on YouTube. This was not a paid ad, because the money went
I was
to
like,
Dave.
Was a
wait,
paid
like,
ad.
are you advertising on my channel?
$2 paid ad. That's
Hey,
fucking-
look, I'm a bro. I'm in it, man. Like, rising tide, all ships. You know, it's all good.
It's all good, apparently.
Dave. Oh, I wish Joel was here to say it's all Gucci. Yes, that is what the kids are saying these days. I don't understand why. The kids are probably done saying that now, and I've just missed the boat. But the kids were saying it's all Gucci.
Well, they said it 1 million times now, so it's done for.
Oh, did you see the kid who said Gucci Gang 1 million times?
I actually tuned in for about 10 seconds of that before I Control F4 the tab.
Did you see when he finished? He cried. He cried on the air, probably with like, "What have I done?" Anyway, James, what's your play?
we played Wildlands. Actually played some of the campaign,
Yeah.
which is just fun with friends. I can't do it on my own.
I agree with that.
And Dying Light, that was a ton of fun. We played earlier this week, I think, or last weekend. Still enjoying that. Played Ben from Movie Spoiler Alerts. Shut up and play a little bit too.
Man, he's really getting a lot of mileage out of that $2 donation.
You know, maybe we should open up the super chat to Casual Shenanigans chat.
Oh, I got to set up monetization and stuff then. It's just a lot of work. All right.
That's it.
Next segment, it is now time for the news.
News time.
All right, that works. All right, Dave, now I believe these next few are yours. Is that right?
Is all of it mine?
No, I've got one at the end. And do we have... I see the Nintendo thing down there. Does that cover what I think it does?
Just the sales numbers.
Oh, James, do you want to talk about Nintendo Labs? Okay, cool.
I'm still on the fence about it.
Oh, me
I
too.
need to digest it.
But I figured we should probably talk about it. All right, Dave, you get to go. Go for it.
Save it for next week. Yeah. A little bit of Battlegrounds news first. Just some chatter about the region locking problem in Battlegrounds as well as the cheating, which are connected. There's tons of Chinese players playing Battlegrounds, which is adding to Steam's player base by a ton. There's also a lot of Chinese cheaters, unfortunately. And a video just started playing in one of those tabs for no reason. That was super confusing. They are apparently working on a region lock, more or less a Chinese version of the game of their own. But the cheating is definitely a problem. Like Edgar, our good friend Edgar, plays a ton of Battlegrounds, and he was saying last night that it's just a massive, massive issue right now. He's seeing a couple cheaters per match right now. And I believe that their number of banned players is approaching 2 million. which is mind blowing.
Well, yeah, a lot of those people are just rebuying again, so it's not like
True.
it's not 2 million individual people. Still, though, I mean that's more than a lot of games even sell.
At the same time, the devs are going all out to try and crack down on the cheating problem. Chinese holding company, which I think they have the license for the upcoming Chinese version of Battlegrounds, Tencent. Mm-hmm. They have helped police in China arrest 120 suspects for creating or advertising cheating software just for Battlegrounds. And I've always thought this is probably one thing that should happen to a certain extent. Like I remember DayZ went through a time period where in standalone there was a pretty bad hacking problem, even though standalone was supposed to fix hacking in DayZ. And there were a few well-known hack writers who were like taunting the developers on Twitter and using it as a way to advertise their hacks. And I was like, getting into a Twitter argument with these people is literally just giving them attention and helping them sell their hacks. Like, find a law that they've broken somehow. Like, I could almost continue this one out there somewhere. And go after the source and make an example of them. I think that's one thing that one of the few things that actually would help to cut down on hacking. Banning the hackers is a band-aid solution. Going after the source can cut back on the hacks for a while. I don't know if arresting 120 of them in one giant government swoop is a good thing. That sounds a little ominous. But maybe the problem really is just that big. It's hard to say. Like it sounds ominous.
It's kind of scary. They're like, they arrested 100 of them. They were last seen heading to a Chinese prison island.
They all had pickaxes. Time to unlock new.
Just take them all in an airplane and make them drop out and fend for themselves. Shane and I played the other night, and I don't know if we saw any hackers, but there were a ton of Chinese people playing, on the North American server, and it creates such lag from being that far away.
Yeah. Also,
like I don't want them to completely region lock the game, because then we wouldn't play with people like Justin and Shane,
sure,
until he moves from America. But so I appreciate that we're able to play with people in different areas, but a lot of what Shane was explaining was that we're seeing, a lot of Chinese players will dress alike. Like they might not wear pants, they might wear red shirts, and that way they know how to meet up with each other and basically know that they're friendlies. And then they'll, in playing a squad or playing duos or singles, you're not supposed to be meeting up with other groups and, attacking other players, because that creates an unfair advantage.
I heard, James, a story of somebody who was playing on a North American server a few days ago, and a bunch of red-shirted players who were obviously grouping up together. It was 8 of them all ran by shouting in broken English, "China number one, China number one." It's they're not even subtle about it. Just this horde of players going by. Man, yeah, I think it's an actual problem, but. Again, I think going after the source might be a good idea. I just hope that
I like that better than companies suing individual cheaters.
Kind of, the Fortnite method. Yeah,
I think that's you can punish them without ruining their life.
There's a middle ground there somewhere. Yeah, it's one of those things like you said, you don't want to ruin their life, right? But going back to the hackers that were taunting the DayZ devs on Twitter for 6 months, a lot of these people do feel invincible because there's no consequences for most of them. So there's got to be some consequences, pretty serious, not life ruining, but something real, like, hey, you're going to get fined $5,000, or you're banned from multiplayer games for 6 months, you have an internet hold or something, some kind of real legal consequence for their actions.
I wonder if it'll ever get to the point, such as copyright issue, where studios will contact the internet provider, and the internet provider sends letters to the house saying, "Hey,
wasn't that what's supposed to happen
suspected
with, if you download things illegally?" Same thing.
Yeah, something like that. That's a good idea.
Sorry, James. I interrupted you. I didn't.
That's okay.
But that's what you're talking about, right? Something where the content provider actually knows that you're doing something and it sends something to your ISP going, "Hey."
Right. That's what I did. Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay. No, I'm making sure I understand.
Yeah.
Similar idea. Man. Part of me is that's too harsh, but I don't know.
Again, having seen that dialogue against the Daisy devs go on for months and months and months, like with no consequences, I was like, these people need some humbling in their lives, some serious humbling. Anyway, that's our.
I mean, there's a certain point where there has to be some legal basis for editing people's code or using pieces of people's code. It has to be treated like using other content for copyright issues. And maybe that's the route they have to go down. Maybe that has to become a copyright issue.
I think that's what Blizzard used for the third-party World of Warcraft servers, like the private servers, where they're like, hey, guys, you're running our server software in a way that's not intended to run your own servers. Like, you've modified our code and you're profiting from it. So they got sued for copyright infringement, basically. Could be something there, yeah. My next news item is nice and brief. I just want to say that Joel and I picked a terrible year for E3 last year because this year, 2018, very likely rumor that Cyberpunk 2077 from CD Projekt Red is going to be at E3. Maybe a trailer, but possibly even a playable demo.
I thought they said like a behind closed doors demo that would be played for you.
Regardless, Jeremiah, I would do things.
That's what I'm going to assume. I assume it's not just going to be on the show floor.
Now, are you thinking, Dave, that you're going to E3 this year?
No, I'd say I'm almost certainly not, because I'm saving aside vacation days for many more important things, like exploring America's national treasures.
Now, Dave, did you see the super chat from Jacob Mason?
I didn't. I had my news tab open. Jacob wants to know if his $5 gets him a shout out for his old cringe-inducing RuneScape videos. The answer, Jacob, is yes. Everyone go smash that RuneScape like button.
Gosh, I hope
like and subscribe.
I hope his RuneScape videos aren't horribly inappropriate.
$5? That's what you get. We don't even check.
Welcome to Racist RuneScape. I'm 14.
It rolls off the tongue.
Let's play this old game and yell about minorities. If you're here from Evil Viking 13's channel, welcome. We're best friends. I've paid you for this.
Basically endorsed. My final news item, just a brief one again. Nintendo Switch tops December US sales as the 3DS posts its best sales since December 2014. So just Nintendo on top of the world again. Awesome to see. I gotta get me a Switch one of these days.
They gotta start coming out with games though, or it's gonna go crashing down.
Well, what's the lifetime of the Switch though? Like, I feel like it's gonna have a longer lifetime than some of their previous consoles.
I mean, they don't have to move to something different anytime soon because they don't have any real competitors for what they're doing.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I mean, this may actually delay, I think, their next handheld. If there is a next hand, I think there still should be a handheld. I would love for them to bring back the Game Boy brand. But
I have a piece of news.
Oh my.
Age of Empires Definitive Edition launches February 20th for $20. They say it's launching for Windows 10 PCs, which unfortunately makes it sound like it's just going to be on the store. But you'll be able, they've rebuilt all the assets for a modern 4K presentation. You can play online with Xbox Live in addition to LAN play. They've re-recorded the original soundtrack with a new orchestral score, and they've added campaign narration for every mission. And I've looked at the screenshots, and they have like 3D rebuilt all of it. Now, I hope they do the same thing for Age of Empires 2, which is the definitive version of, like, that's the definitive Age of Empires experience, in my opinion. But
Sure. But I have very fond memories of the first one. Oh, man. That demo mission, Jeremiah, do you remember the first demo level in the Age of Empires 1 demo where you had this one little settler and, like, you got landed on this shoreline of, like, the new world, and you got to build your settlement for the first time? I played that demo, like, 100 times over and over again. I loved that thing. Like, just the idea of just, like, the age of exploration and building your own settlement and... building your own settlement. I just realized what I said.
Oh, do you like that? Are you into that? Is that interesting to you?
So you're going to make an Age of Empires Fallout settlement?
Confirmed.
Have we talked? Have we talked about Dark Souls?
Dark Souls Definitive Edition? I don't think so.
Yeah,
Not
that was between this and last week's podcast, correct?
What was it?
I don't know. Maybe
I think
we talked
so.
about it last week.
I don't think we did.
Well, we could talk about it now.
Skype is kind of dying on us right now.
Yeah, take it away, Jeremiah.
About Dark Souls?
Yeah.
I mean, I would very much like it to be good.
What is it?
I mean, they're
Here, I'll explain what it is real quick.
Okay, yeah.
I gotta have Joel's reaction because it was amazing. Joel went to go get coffee and came back up to the office. It's like, oh, Joel, did you hear that Dark Souls 1 is being remastered? He gasped. He went, oh, no. I go, it's 60 FPS. No. On the newest engine from Dark Souls 3. What? And I was like, on the Nintendo Switch. What? Like, it was like 4 levels of freak out. It was fantastic.
He does know it's only 30 on the Switch, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Joel doesn't care about that.
Right.
I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm just saying, like, it's on the Switch. I mean, honestly, most people would be happy with a locked 30 FPS for Dark Souls 1, so...
They've got the PS4 Pro and Xbox One upscaled to 4K, and the PC will do native 4K.
Mm-hmm. All I want is for them to fix the co-op so you can actually play with friends, because that's the only way I'm
If they do it like they did with 2 when they re-released that'd be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But also if you already own it on PC, I think it's half price to upgrade.
Yeah, oh, the $20, yeah, half price.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty awesome.
It's just 1 to 6 online players, which the original one we did 4.
1 to 6.
So you can have a full squad. Moving on.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all of our news for this evening. Does anyone have anything else they want to cover? We did not get any mail. If you would like to write in the show, you can write into casualshenanigans@gmail.com to be a part of the show. And you can also tweet at casualshenanigan. But anything else you want to cover?
Skype is dying.
Is it?
I do have a
Is it
comment
dying?
of the week.
Okay, you do.
Yeah,
okay.
it's getting really artifacted. Yeah. So if you guys can still hear me, I got.
I think it's just on your end, Dave.
It might be. Oh yeah, it's on my end. The Age of Empires article was downloading the media pack of assets for some reason at full speed. Sorry, that was all me then. Got a comment on a Fallout tour this week, and I had to like decipher it because it was a bit of like not broken English, but like broken typing. You know, when someone is just mashing the keyboard and it's like it's close enough.
So it's a YouTube comment. Yes.
It's a YouTube comment. Yes, thank you. And it basically said, "This is not immersive because you can see all of your mental illness and drug addiction," which I think is a dig at the obsessive level of detail in the settlement. But I'm not entirely
don't
sure.
you like leave drugs and stuff laying around?
But see, that's the thing. This settlement was a Minutemen settlement. It was clean and pristine.
Yeah.
So like I think. And it wasn't from a subscriber. It was a drive-by comment. So I really feel like someone saw the video and is like, I looked into this guy's eyes in the corner of this video, and I saw drug addiction and mental illness. And then you just closed the tab. That was my comment of the week.
That's even when I have deep thoughts or, quote unquote, deep thoughts about a YouTube video. It's still a lot of work to like type a comment. I don't want to have to like respond to people and stuff. How do people not have time to actually watch the thing they're leaving a comment about because they don't know what they're talking about, but they have time to leave a whole comment and they don't have time to come back and reply about anything? I just don't understand.
Yeah, well, the leaving drive-by comments like that on videos is something I just don't understand because I don't consume a lot of YouTube content.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I so rarely post a comment on someone else's video, and it's always like where I wanted to like, there's something really awesome that I liked, or I was like, this is unique and I want to call this out, or like I want to say hi to this person. I post like maybe one comment a month on other people's videos. So the people that go around like just crapping on other people, because I feel like they would do it to more than one channel probably. Like if that's just how they are. It's like, who has the time for that? I've never understood that. Maybe that's just me.
Nope, it's me too. So it's at least the two of us.
No, it's the children who are wrong.
I actually saw that clip for the first time. Like the real one?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, thank you everybody for coming out and being part of the show. As always, you can find us on youtube.com/casualshenanigans. You can find us on Stitcher, Dogcatcher. I need to actually look up where you get podcasts now. Everywhere podcasts are, iTunes, other places. The one episode on Spotify. And Dave, I say that every week and you still laugh at it.
I'm always so surprised to hear it.
It's
just a fresh joke.
The idea is just still so ridiculous to me. Like Spotify reached down from their empire of media and it's like casual shenanigans. I choose this random episode. Like it just makes no sense.
But thank you everybody for coming out and being a part of the show. We like some of you, we love less of you, and we hope all of you stay casual.